Hi, everyone, and welcome to Speak Up Monday. Today, I'm your host, Bhavna Parihar. We're coming to you live from tropical Nomad, Canggu in beautiful Bali, Indonesia. Today's episode is about collective intelligence, and this time we dive deeper, most notably to think differently with our AI thought leader, Adrian Blackwood. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Speak Up Monday is an award-winning talk show for motivation and inspiration. We believe that people inspire people, and the more conversations we have, the more perspective we gain, and thus the more compassionate we become. Through dialogue with entrepreneurs and social impact leaders, we challenge hot-button topics, ideas, notions, and beliefs of the world so we can challenge ourselves and those around us. So, AI. Now, about 2 months back, April 10th, episode 362, I believe, we started chatting about what was the hot button, hype-making headline topic around the world, AI, ChatGPT. At that time, it was more about the movements in the market, how this would impact us on a larger scale, and what this meant for me in my future. Then on May 15th, we went into the morality. At this time, it was about, does AI have a moral compass? What are the morals? How does it impact us? How does it impact relationships? How do we move through in the world? But now, in June, the reality is the hype is gone. It's part of news. Every day we hear about AI impersonations of loved ones. We hear about layoffs happening on a global scale. So really the reality becomes, a bit more selfishly and most self-serving, how does this impact me? How do I implement this in my business? How do I implement this in the verticals that impact my business? And how do I move forward? Now, to move through an industry that is changing on a daily basis, we have to think innovatively. We have to think differently. And so to do that, we have a pioneer in this space, Adrian Blackwood, joining me. We have an opportunity to dive deep into his brain. He is an innovative leader on AI special projects and teams. He is the founder of Spatialist, and we get a chance to have this VIP all-access pass into his brain, what he's done before, what he's doing now, and how we can benefit and learn, but also what is happening in the industry today and going forward. With that, please welcome Adrian Blackwood.
Thank you.
Now, for those of you who were here for the last two AI conversations, Adrian was actually a veteran. He was on the panel. At that time, he was joined by other industry and thought leaders. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're diving deep into his brain, but we're also giving the audience an opportunity to have a bit of a hot seat Q&A. All the questions you want to ask that you think the world might want to know, that you get access into someone who is doing the work and leading the charge. It's also an opportunity to challenge the notions he might have that at times can be bold, but real, and sometimes uncomfortable. So, audience, have your questions ready. All right, so let's kick things off. I use the word pioneer. When you think of the definition of pioneer, it is someone who is charting uncharted territory. They're navigating, exploring new lands, new industries, new spaces. They are forward-thinking in an area that we haven't had to think about before. When I say the word pioneer, how would you define that for yourself?
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
And thanks everyone for coming. It's always fun to have these talks. I get excited by them. Let's talk about the word pioneer. Mm-hmm. It's not my word. Use case that everyone should know how to do, and if you don't, let's talk about it together. What do you call yourself? Who really knows? I mean, and it's at one level a very self-serving and self-derogatory way to describe I am this or I could be that. And yet, I need to use words like everyone else. Ooh, they're getting feedback right there. I put my CV, my experience, my wants, my desires into ChatGPT, and I asked it a series of questions. And we went down and down and down till we got to 5 words. And then I asked it to make 1 word, and what it said I was a pioneer. And that's the first time I started to use that word to describe myself. So until that point, I'd used all the other words, but I hadn't used that word. And since I started to think, well, maybe I am a pioneer, because AI thinks I'm a pioneer, because it went through 10,000 words, 5,000, 2,000, 1,000, all the way down to 5, and then the one word it said I was a pioneer. I'm going to give you my answer.
I'm waiting for it.
So before the answer comes, I'm going to ask you to bring the microphone a lot closer to your mouth.
Feedback.
Thank you.
Okay, good. When I was really young, I took apart my electronics because I was curious how a radio worked. I wanted to know what was inside my tape player. I wanted the VCR in the living room to play in my bedroom. So I went under the house and I ran a very long cable to make that happen. So I don't really accept the limits of technology. I will fight those limits, and I've consistently done that. I think pioneers, whether in the classic westernized way, you're leading a group of disparaged travelers across a foreign land to achieve a group objective with unknown consequences for your actions and movements. Yeah, that's a pretty good description of most innovators and technologists. The entrepreneurship game is brutal for most times, and for sometimes it's just excellent. And the journey that we've all chosen as entrepreneurs and people that build things is to get shot in the back with arrows. Again, highly westernized, case specific, but I feel like I've brushed off those arrow shots and I've managed to get to where I am now based on my desire to keep moving forward. And to round that thought off, I think I am a pioneer because I stopped looking 15 years out. I started 15 years, then 12 years and 10 years, and now I'm at about 3 years. What this means is that I'm looking for what's cool in 3 years, and I'm thinking about that a lot because that gives me enough time to make it be what's going to be cool.
So on that, I think it would actually help the audience to know a little bit more about what you're currently doing, why you even have the credibility to be up here in this hot seat. So let's start with that. Let's start with just a bit of a summary on what's coming up for you right now, the companies that you're building, what you're working on, how AI and machine learning as an overarching theme drives your business. And then I want to take a step back, but let's start there.
I'm going to do this fast for you, so it's all good. Okay, hi. I have 2 companies right now. My 2 main companies are Spatialist, Spatialist.ai, Spatialist.co, depends on how you go there. This is a platform company that builds technologies, modules, and really specific tool sets to enable spatial. Spatial is a word that you would have heard earlier this month when Apple helped, thank you, my friend. My mic sponsor is sponsoring my positioning on my mic. Apple used the word spatial to describe their vision product. They actually said spatial computing, spatial engineering, spatial design, spatial content, spatial commerce. I've been working in spatial for forever, and thank you for everyone catching up. It's great. Okay, so now we're all talking the same thing. Spatialist builds tools specifically for this. But I don't build tools for the masses, and I don't build tools for small companies. I build tools either for really big companies, companies that I like, or my own companies. So I'm taking a very different approach to this. I have a view that says the spatial world's going to pop in about 3 to 5 years, and it's going to dramatically change how you understand your world. Everyone in this room has a phone. Some of you are on it right now. Some of you have 2 phones. Some of you have 7 phones. Some of you are holding a phone. But this little black screen is a limit to the internet, and it's the internet that you know. That's not the limit of the internet. The physical world around us is our canvas for us to consume information and to have experiences. And right now we're hobbled and limited by our own fallacy of believing that's the end. That's not the end. That's not even the beginning. That's just a step. And spatial explores the reality that reality is something that's a construct. So what I'm working on right now is helping to push that a lot further and farther. I build a number of underlying deep tech nerd stuff. The one that I'm working on right now is called Articulated Spatial Relativity. That's a set of 8 engines. That's the powering behind this all. And you're going to see in August here in Bali some incredible use cases that me and my team and the people that we're working with are building. And excitingly so. And then the next thing that I'm working on is Superhuman Studios. We realized earlier this year that everyone's going to have an AI agent. Every single person in this room will either make or buy an AI agent in the next 2 years. Sounds ridiculous. It's not. Right now, you use that phone that's in your hand to control about 30 apps on average. And most people have up to 300 apps that they touch, platforms, technologies. You know this because you use so many different products. But every single one of those has a different interface. Remember where the buttons are, press this to do that, do this to do this. It's exhausting. Wouldn't it be a lot easier that you just had one place to communicate to? What if there was a unified language model, the one thing that you talk to on your phone? Hey phone, show me the notes that I need to have for my talk. Hey phone, where am I and what am I supposed to be doing? And what if that phone had a personality? So as we build up through Superhuman Studios and start to architect more as a factory and a production model, and frankly normalizing building custom-made AI agents. And there's a whole world of coolness for that. And that's what I'm working on. Those are my two main projects.
Okay, and so the visual I just had, I'm not sure about you guys, is like, when you used to see those cartoons of people or like production factories packaging up milk cartons and or different brands and flavors of products and going through. I hear that, or I see that when you talk about sort of the agents that you're building. But, so it's clear for anyone in this room or who's been in conversation with you before that you have such a deep, deep knowledge base and such an interest base in the world and the way that's going in the space of artificial intelligence. So we are going to get into sort of the more specific topics around the verticals and how that would impact and implement, which we'll get to. But I think it would be really valuable for us to take a bit of a step back into a little bit of your personal story, maybe some defining moments in your adulthood, childhood, education, because in order for us to move forward into a land unknown, we have to think differently. In order to think differently, some of that is not intrinsic to many of the people in this room. Maybe there are qualities and traits that you have or things that you were doing that if you could bottle it up and sell it, we could buy and also kind of approach business and industry the way that you do. So if you could maybe take us back a bit into your personal journey because at this point, 15, 20, 30 years ago, you didn't know that this is the space we'd be in. Yet here you are leading the charge. So what would be maybe 3 moments, some examples from your past that would help illustrate some traits and qualities that we could look to embody as we move forward?
I love it, and I'll try and make it interesting. Okay, thanks for aging me, by the way. Calling me out's good. 25 years ago, I was in my house. I had friends over. I was being very social. We were watching The Matrix. And 2 big, burly friends of mine were wrestling, as you do in that age group. And they pancaked my table. And it pissed me off. Like, sorry, I'm going to swear. Fuck these guys. That they broke my table. And I was super angry. And I couldn't figure out, because I couldn't remember, where to buy the replacement. I couldn't tell them how much it cost. I couldn't tell them where they had to drive to get a new one. Because there was no way for me to connect to this table to the internet. There was no connection. There was no way for me to know what this product was. I couldn't search it. There wasn't a QR code. QR codes were really primitive then, but there was no link. And I had this aha moment and this I got upset and angry aha moment that does fuel a lot of the true innovators' origin stories. What pissed off Jeff Bezos is he couldn't buy books for a reasonable price. What pissed off Bill Gates is that the software industry was stupid and the way that it was priced was stupid. And it made him mad. What makes you mad as an innovator is oftentimes the root underlying cause of true change. And that's true for me. That one moment really fueled 20 plus years of me thinking about how to solve this problem. Number 2, I'm at the European Space Agency. I'm inside the Columbus module. I'm hanging upside down. I'm installing an AI-driven on-site edge sensor. These are things that I built at that time. That sounds futuristic. It's not anymore. But basically, it was a computer to help not kill astronauts. You wouldn't know this, but 8 times a year, it's filed in documents that it's not really publicly shown that an astronaut almost dies. This is, I forgot to lock an airlock, or I let out all the macaroni. That happens, and then it causes shorts. To what happens in an emergency about guiding them inside physical spaces. There's lackingly and shockingly a disconnect between what you should do in that situation and what the guidance is. So we built non-terrestrial, non-linear, algorithmically defined, purpose-specific engagement agents for engineers to install into the ISS. And from learning how to do that, I built a lot of technology that we're still not using today because we don't have the pieces. there was an aha moment there, and I'm going to mention it now, but we're going to come back around. Most of you know what IoT is, or Internet of Things, or smart devices, or those smart speakers. Google Home, Alexa, those are dumb. Those are really dumb. Ask it anything that's a real question, they don't have a clue. But there's something else that's coming up, which is called AIoT. And that's Artificial Intelligence, Internet of Things. It's a horrible name, but it's true. What we actually want is embedded intelligence into our physical world. And that's for me where I really figured it out, like, okay, this is possible. If I can guide an astronaut to not die in an emergency, I can probably help a soccer mom keep track of all her things in conjunction with her spatial relativity and relationship, and get to the car with her kids on time. Third one, here in Bali, I was laying on my inflatable peacock pool floaty, and I was laying in my pool and just floating around. I just ended a contract. I was very happy to no longer be working. I was listening to podcasts, and just freaking lovely dumbness. Mark Zuckerberg came on and he told me all about how he was going to change the name of his company to Meta, and how he thought that was a great idea. And I was laughing, kind of like a crazy guy, in my pool, realizing, God damn, Mark, thank you. You don't know what you've done for me. You've really started the conversation. I can now talk about things that are no longer crazy, like the relationship to data and physicality. Look around this. How much technology is here? It took some constructive feedback in order to change the layout where the table used to be there, but no one could see us. Now the table's there. It's brilliant. Look how cool he looks. This is evolved progress towards a better, more naturalistic experience here in this chamber, this community, and this group of people. Now we can see it. This people get the same as these people. Fantastic. Table's in the middle. So what Mark said is, hey, the industry is going to move towards this being an alternative venue to create revenue. Traditional bricks and mortar businesses are almost always going to have a connection to the purely digital world, and businesses that are purely digital should stop thinking about the limits of that. That sucks, and that's not our future.
Okay, so I'm hearing three things. One is your youth, or maybe more of your adulthood, because the things you're mentioning are a bit more of the recent past. We're driven by anger, which, is an emotion that we can use to fuel us forward. So I think that's one takeaway, that just being a little bit mad, a little pissed off about the way things are working or not working is an agency for change and to move us forward. The second thing I heard is curiosity. From the guy that was tinkering with his radio as a kid about how do things work and how do we put them back together. The third thing I hear is thinking ahead, forward thinking, mapping things out, trying to understand if I put it together this way, how would it perform differently? So those three sort of qualities, if you agree, would have kind of defined how you move through the world. Because in listening to you speak, I think it's clear to everyone here that you just live and breathe this. This is not like a mentality that you adopt. And I think for many people who are online or here who are thinking about more specifically, like, oh, I've been running my business this way. I've been thinking about technology, the internet this way. How do I rewire my brain to think about it differently? Because is my job obsolete? Is the vertical that I'm in? And so I think looking at things and embracing this emerging technology as a space that is going to be here and now and forever, how do we find our way in it, right? And how do we define ourselves within it? So, on that note, if you had to give an example in your past, because not all of it, I'm sure, came with success. There were probably moments of you building where you had to rebuild. If you could share an example having to sort of rewire your thinking in terms of what you were building towards and how you went about doing that.
Thank you. All right. The reason you have an iPod, or that you had an iPod 20 years ago, is because Steve Jobs was really angry at the crappy Discman. And he hired a guy named Tony Fadell to figure out how to build it. I had a really good talk with Tony on this island not so long ago. And Tony's now building electric scooters. Have you seen the really stylish electric scooters that are around? That's his company. So he told me he was pissed off because scooters on the island were horribly designed, gas guzzlers, and he didn't really like a lot of stuff about them. So the anger thing is an interesting one, but using that as motivation forward is powerful. Yeah, let's be real. If you're an entrepreneur, 70% of all the things you do are just going to fail. You got to know this. And that's you being good. When a VC, a venture capitalist, invests in a technology company, they're banking on 70% of those ultimately failing, breaking even, or being slightly below. They're banking that 20% do break even 10x or something like in that range. And one, they're hoping and they're praying for to the VC gods that they hit 100x in order to balance it out. So inside true innovation, no matter what you're doing and how you're approaching it, you should expect that actually the majority of things that you do are going to fail. Big companies like my good friend Mark Zuckerberg, he said and claimed the statement to fail fast. And what he was saying was, okay, if you're 70% of the things you're going to do are going to absolutely not work, going to be crap, or going to lose you money, or going to be a waste of your time, learn the lessons, fail fast, and move on. I didn't always do that. And I think a lot of my peers at different eras of evolution also held on. I think the traditional view is that you should be stoic in your build-outs. You should hold on to your company. You shouldn't let it fail. I've learned to pivot, and I've really learned to let go when something's not working. As evidenced as recently as today and experienced many times over the last years, when a project isn't working, I don't support it any longer. I'm much more mathematically driven, and I'm thinking about the long game. What I'm doing now is I bet if I have 10 chips and I'm choosing which project to put my chip down on, I'm looking for the ones that are hitting in about 36 months. That's the sweet spot for me. I know my investment thesis, so I know myself. I know the market, so I know my enemy. So I need not fear the result of 100 battles. And if you're going to take 2,600-year-old ancient Chinese war philosophy and apply it to technology, you're about as cool as any other VC bro. But what I figured out by living on Bali is that there's an alternative way. I think when we talk about community and understanding the power of community is that not all those failures need to be a failure and not all those projects need to be your project. So what I'm learning as an evolution of that is to think about platforms, something that I can build continuously over time that can get better, but I can think about it as verticals. These are projects that can emerge from my own work or work with other people that don't necessarily need to be my project, but still something I can support. So my thinking and my investment thinking has altered and evolved that I prefer to be involved with, partner with, or practice engagement with people that are really motivated. If you're an innovator, you may know your thing really well, and you're probably either a product person or an engagement person, or rarely, and then if you're anyone's here that does this, please talk to me after. If you're really good at logistics and operations, heck yeah. Know what you're really good at and then augment with the others. And what I'm moving towards, especially in Superhuman Studios, is that we're putting up process-driven innovation where we can construct verticals out of modules, wrap them in branding, and put an engagement engine around it and support it with operations and logistics people. And that does not all have to be me. And my learning, took me a long time to figure it out, is that I don't need to do everything. Did that answer your question?
Yes. So I think there is a part of that, which is, as we said, so a couple key themes, right? Use fear and anger to fuel you forward. Don't be afraid to break things apart to rebuild them.
Enjoy it.
And enjoy the process, right? Because the reality is that's going to be part of the journey, the ebbs and flows, no matter how much of a crystal ball that you seem to have. So now let's fast forward a little bit. The conversations that we've been having just generally and seeing what's been going on in the marketplace, right? About ChatGPT, Midjourney, these are, 6-8 months ago were new buzzy topics. Now people have started to embrace them in their work. Talk to me now about mass customization. Because I think for a lot of people, myself included, is that, okay, we know it's here. We know we need to use these tools in our business. But now it's really about how to implement and how to move forward. So if you could share a little bit about if that's part of what you're doing and how you're moving forward in that.
I'm going to absolutely answer your question in a very roundabout way. How about that? All right. So for the few among us that remember 1992 work environment, there was a woman there. Her name was Edna. She worked in HR. She preferred pen and paper. She did not like the newfangled computer. Word processing was not her thing. She didn't want to learn Microsoft Word. She didn't feel that this new way of doing business represented the value that you could get with really good document storage, a filing cabinet. Edna doesn't work there anymore. Edna got laid off. Edna was given a very good retirement package, and Edna took care of a garden for 20 years. Edna's good. If you want to be Edna, go right ahead. Power to you. But you could also choose not to be. Okay, hipster kids came in the early 90s and they're like, hey, yo, we got another way to do this. We're going to use Excel. We're going to figure out some macros. We're going to, link files in our documents. We're going to SharePoint things. These are horribly outdated technologies, but we're foundational in the moment. ChatGPT is like the dumbest version of AI that you're going to get, and in 10 years, you're going to be like, wow, this is ridiculously dumb. Big circle of what AI can do. Generative AI is like the little dot in the corner that you explain first to your kids. Hey, what can AI do? It can make great pictures, and it can really help you figure out the one word that you are, or hear me out, do all your homework, or do your work, or tell you what you should focus on. It's great for all kinds of things, because what it provides through a large language model is abundant intelligence. You dropped a word, a phrase. I like that phrase. You know this because we've talked about it. All right. So Microsoft Word was a tool in the 90s that we all learned to use, and whether you're an accountant or whether you were a doctor, you were using the same tool but different. So this was not mass customization, but this was customization for verticals, businesses specific. What AI provides is like the next step. The AI can know who you are. If you're good at talking to AI, you can ask it, hey, I am this person, this is what I want you to do. Can you do it in this style and give me this output? And if you're a master at that, you've got a superpower right now. In fact, you get called a prompt engineer and you make $300,000 to $380,000 a year open market. Right now, if you go online and look for that job, you're making a tremendous amount of money. Let's go farther. We're halfway through the year. By the end of this year, you will have heard of someone, or you will have done it yourself. You will buy an AI agent. When you talk to AI right now, you're using something that's a unified language model. It's an interface, but it's a text interface. And if you go back to, let's fast forward, to the 2000s where you were texting people, and maybe you had that i9 phone where you had to press 3 times for T, right? Like how much messages did you spend? Not very many. And you'd have to wait a second and come back, and then you'd wait, and then like back and forth. And texting was horrible. That's AI for us right now. We're in the 2000s texting era on your i9 phone, and you're outside the bar trying to figure out where your friends are by pressing 3 times to get tea. That's where we are in AI. So let's not kid ourselves. Text-based conversations with an AI agent are cool as texting was in 2002. One more?
Just want to pause you.
Go for it.
Because you mentioned generative AI. And so on that note, because I was seeing, we have now people using generative AI to do 3D models of floor plans at Walmart. It is wiping out job forces because there's no longer any strategists or urban planners. What would you say to someone who is embarking on this career thinking that they're using the technology, but in fact, this technology is literally making their job obsolete?
All right. I love giving talks. That's pretty obvious. I don't have to practice for anything anymore because I love doing it. I give these talks, though, which is what's going on in AI this week. And let's go back to April this year. I gave one and I said, look, realistically, you got to know 30% of all jobs are done by the end of this year. That got revised. It's 46% now. Let's talk about AI impact. In April, for This Week in AI, we were at 66% of jobs impacted by AI. It's at 87% now. So are you part of the 13% that's not getting affected by AI? I don't know. Statistically, you're not. Your job is already impacted. Let's be honest. Someone came and set up all these lights. There's a process. There's a process that's evolved. We've already talked about the fact that it moved from the table over here to the table there. That's incremental innovation. What if we asked AI to optimize where all the lights were, the speakers were, the floor plan here, the layout, and let's ask it to give you a step-by-step process to do this repeatedly, repetitively, to structure quality assurance, assistance, make it so that you can certify that this place is set up correctly. AI can do that. So what we're really talking about is in this next period of time, the next 6 months, if you're not already using AI to become a superstar at what you do currently, you need to start. Because the reality is there is competition that is funneling itself to be you plus AI versus you. And that is the job market at the moment.
Okay, so when you mention we need to use it, so what would you say looking ahead the next 6 months, right? 1 year, what 3 or 4 verticals, industries do you think have the most to lose and the most to gain by not embracing it? And as we said, it's no longer about me versus this, it's me and this. So it's AI and storytelling, AI and marketing, AI and technical services. These, just to give an example, of a couple industries and verticals, how do they and how does the person in that industry implement?
Okay, we're going to do 3 and come back to storytelling because that's the coolest one you mentioned. That might be the coolest one right now, actually. FYI. Okay, first off, if you are an intellectual or you do repetitive thought work, you should stop doing this job. Quit. Go do something else. This is a dumb job to have. If you can tell me what you do in your job, don't do that job anymore. Stop. That job sucks. As soon as you can tell an AI what you do and how to do it and how you want it done, someone else can as well. Your job is no longer important. Your job is important when you can physically articulate your physical body in order to grab something and move it. Why? Robots are expensive. To do a 180-degree machine-grade articulation is like $40,000 right now, the cheapest industrial robot. And that robot is not coming to fix your plumbing leak in your villa in Tabanon. It's not happening. YN is coming to do that. His job is safe for a while. If you're an accountant, done. If you're a lawyer, we've hired a few recently, so no, you're probably safe for a bit. But the document construction, done. I use ChatGPT to write a lot of my documents because I can tell it what I want, and then I can tell it again how to refine it, and then I can ask it to change variations or create 3 versions or do all kinds of things because I'm good at talking to AI. So let's pin a pin in that about how that skill comes back. So I think if you're primarily a thought leader or a thought intellectually based role job provider where you're doing things that are process driven or systemic or systematic, any of those roles, those are easy ones. And you can validate this when large companies lay off 12,000 people at a time. Those are who are getting cut. Storytellers?
Yep.
Okay. Carol's right there. She's a great storyteller. There's a few great storytellers here. Carol's a very good storyteller. Listen to her stories. I sent Carol a video yesterday, 2 days ago, and it was someone talking about the fact that storytelling is going to be the last bastion of AI. AI is not actually creative. I can tell when someone's used AI to write a document. I can tell when they've used it in order to write a response. And if you watch South Park, it's really funny because they did an AI generated episode where they asked AI to write a South Park episode, and it sucked. A lot of AI generative content sucks because it's not actually built correctly. We're using something called LLMs, large language models, and that's fundamentally wrong for that job. We need something else called ELMs. And those are expert language models. If you know something really well, you want to have an opportunity, think about creating an ELM. There's a way for you to package your knowledge into wisdom and activate it with the tools of AI right now. And there's a lot of people doing this worldwide. So when we think about hiring someone like a lawyer, before the end of next year, it's going to be completely normal for you to think about an AI agent first. Or you're going to go to a legal-driven primary activity area AI service first. Hey, I need a contract for a co-founder agreement. I've got a great company. Let's do this. Fantastic. Why? Because you have 2 choices right now. You pay a lot of money for usually a still pretty crappy document, or 2, you pay a lot of money for an absolutely great document that has no variation or value in its ability to change and be flexible. Those both suck. And with AI, you've got this magical third choice. And that applies to almost every area of business right now.
I love that you're such a realist. I was about to say pessimist, and then and I can be the eternal optimist here, but I think what you are is a realist, and what you're saying is that let's make it work for us, with us. So let's get a little more practical. Let's get brass tacks. Let's take an example. Sonia. She owns a social media content agency, which is very common, especially in Bali. So I think it might be very applicable. She has embraced in her mind AI tools. She's using ChatGPT to help write copy for her clients. She's using Midjourney to come up with the graphics. Now what? What does she need to be mindful of that is happening? As we said, you have your ear to the ground. You're in it. You're in this space. Your livelihood, your companies depend on you being ahead of the curve. So someone like that who is thinking, okay, look, I've embraced this technology. What does she need to be scared about? What should she be excited about?
Love it. Let's do that. Okay. Give 30% more right now to every single one of your clients. Stop not giving 30% more because someone else is going to give 30% more. That's the difference AI makes. Output, quality, validation, verification, all the QA, all of these things you can do with AI extremely effective. If you're a designer, you can brainstorm way fast. You can iterate based on customer feedback, based on mid-journey crafted, prompt engineered impacts of different styles. What would used to be an early stage in a brand book can now be done with AI assistance extremely fast. Yes, there's an AI conference coming up. Yes, AI made the poster for that. Yes, we used 3 different AI engines and we did it over 4 series. That was done with humans and AI together, and that's a really good quality poster. And the reason it's really good quality is because AI and humans can work together. 30%. Know this right now. If you're doing something, you have to figure out how to make yourself 30% more valuable right now. Next question. You had one in there.
Yeah.
Which song you be scared of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, excited and scared of.
Okay. Real talk. Employees suck. They're risky. They cost a lot. You have to pay taxes. You have to pay social services. If you're here in Bali, you're running legal risks with the government. Super sucks. And yet there's service providers that would like to build, but I'm looking at someone very specifically, another model where you could hire people through your international company that are wrapped around it and done properly here, where you could work with people side by side, but you don't run legal risk. So the innovators are thinking about solving those human-to-human problems through the use of technology, using technology bridges. Sonia should know that. Sonia should know some other things too. My expectation when I work with people is going to be contractually deliverably based. So I expect you to deliver what you deliver, and if you don't, then there's a different price. And if you over-deliver, then there can also be a different price, and it can be higher. So we're going to have much more value-based service provision, especially not just in the world of AI, but generally it's going to be the 1992 Edna effect all over, where Edna just doesn't have a job. Edna tends her garden because Edna doesn't have a clue that everyone's moved on. If you don't know that everyone is about to move on, you should wake up. And it's not saying it to be pessimistic or like shocking, I'm just saying it to be a realist. The reality is that AI represents the biggest change in humanity that we've ever experienced up until this point. And the bigger thing is that it's time compression. You had better part of 40 years to get over the Industrial Revolution hitting society. You went from turbines in factories that were on a shaft pipe out to the lake that you probably diverted to make a river in order to turn that turbine. And you put all your equipment against that one turbine in your factory. 40 years you had electricity that was coming to your factory. You could place those pieces of equipment wherever you wanted. You had 40 years. You don't have 4 years right now. Everything, every tool, every system, every business information system process will be affected by AI. If you don't already know that that's no longer the limit, like mobile first, that's ridiculous. That's 15 years old. Headset first, cool, but now we're going to talk about spatial. So you need to learn only one thing. If you only get one thing from my talk, please remember this. AI is the third most important in the next 3 big technology revolutions. And you're living through 3 right now. AI is the one that we're all talking about. Yeah, it's not cool anymore, and it was super cool 6 months ago. Now it's what can AI do for me rather than what do I need to know about AI? That's a super important question. That's why you have an AI conference, is you can dive into this. You can show practical use cases. How do I do design with AI? How can I talk to my AI agent to plan my week? How can I get my AI agent to help me talk to my team in order to get them to do more without wasting more time and get better results? All those things AI can help. And then we start to wrap even cooler things that are not so far away, where we talk about personality-driven AI, where it's not the ubiquitous AI or the concept of AI, it's Frank, your AI that you've chosen. Maybe you've bought a cool Gucci hat for Frank and his digital, I'm not kidding, and luxury good items for your AI avatar. Maybe you're represented in the metaverse, as horrible as this is, in your Adidas tracksuit that you bought from Adidas that's certified with an NFT, because NFTs are about ownership, they're not about dumb artwork. And the reality is I work through my digital physical relationship to myself and to others. The fundamental for Sonia is that everything that she does as a content creator is changing right now. And while she might not notice it, just like Edna, if we don't wake up as a community and as a group of innovators to the fact that you're going to end up in a garden, or you're going to end up learning how to use Microsoft Word, but the 2023 version of it, then we're not being real with one another.
Okay, so two things I want to add to that. Before I do, I just want to point it back to the audience here. So as mentioned before, we have Adrian here in the hot seat. He is someone that people, as you can tell, he's a thinker, has a lot to say, which the whole point here is that you have an all-access pass into his brain. And so in about 3 minutes, we're going to have a mic passed around. I'd love for you all to ask the questions that you might be scared to ask, because likely there's someone who is watching this online who has the same question. You have an opportunity to ask him to get you to give him him to give you the kind of the realist point of view. And also, I think in an effort to, as a community, just feel more hopeful about how we can move forward. So it's going to be a bit of a Spitfire Q&A that we're going to have. So please have your questions ready. So as you guys think about that, two things I wanted to ask you was, so I read an article, it was a Forbes article, and it was from 2018. And it talked about vertical AI. I don't think 5 years ago, most of us in this room even knew how that came together. And yet they were talking about that's what we need to be thinking about. How it applies not horizontally, not laterally, but to individual verticals. Why do you think 5 years ago, no one was really doing much about it on a general populace base? Of course, we know Microsoft, Amazon's were all kind of doing things behind the scenes. And with that notion, second part of the question is, what do we need to know now based on what you're scared of?
That's a great question. All right, real talk, I built 2 AI companies, sold them both in 2018. This is not new to me. I was there. I was building shit. No one understood what I was saying. Most people are here because they know ChatGPT, or they have curiosity about community and how we can help each other. Good reasons. 2018 was an interesting year because crypto was on the rise. People said, whoa, this internet thing, starting to make some money. Let's make some money. People were curious, AI curious has a weird connotation, but what you started to see was services that you were already using got a lot better. Google Translate got a lot better in 2017, and the reason was because of transformer architecture. There is in AI nerdland a number of key moments, and one was the paper on transformer architecture that got us all thinking a different way. The first time that I architected personality-driven AI was in 2018, and the first time that we were to release it commercially was later that year, and I sold that company. And I think I'd go back in time talking about mistakes. I probably would not have sold that company. So, there, you win some, you lose some. 5 years ago, we were using AI and we didn't know it. 5 years later, we all want to use AI as a standalone tool. 5 years from now, you won't have a phone. This is dumb. That's dumb. None of it makes sense to me, and it never has. I don't want to carry shit. I never wanted to carry anything. I don't want to keep track of anything. I just want to have my pants on. In Bali, that's rare, by the way, people online. And just walk around and do my thing. I don't want to do anything. I would like to have work optional, and AI is going to help me do that. So I think the thing that I'm scared about is twofold. One, we as a community have to be on top of and aware of AI for good. You make choices about what you do in your technology world and your solution architecture and about your software stack. This is slightly nerd language for some decisions you're making about how you want to interact with technology. This is going to get a lot worse. We all know there's nefarious actors in the world and there's AI for bad. But as a community, we have to think about using it for good. It can help people. It can educate people. We can train people on how to build AI agents, engines, tools and techniques, be able to speak to AI, be cool with AI. I say great every time AI does something for me. So when the robot overlords do take over, they're cool with me. So, being real, the thing that I'm worried about is that we don't educate the youth on the realities of AI as quickly as we need to. We need to start schools now. Right now. We need to train people about how to engage with the digital physical reality that we're about to be in. We have 8 months until Apple drops the Vision product. Don't kid yourself. That will change everything that you know. The concept of internet 8 months from now is going to be dramatically different than what it is now. It's never ended at that device, but just like AI 5 years ago, we're now realizing together that it goes well beyond just a tool in your hand.
So I love what I'm feeling from you and coming from you is passion, right? Even though you're scared of these things, it's fueling you, right? It's, as we talked earlier, right? That's part of who you are intrinsically. That fear is fueling you forward. You are embracing the change and looking forward to sort of the future. Now, if this, I mean, to some, this may have been a lot of technical speak, but the reality is this is the speak. This is the language. Like I remember I was up here with Adrian and a few other folks 2 months back when we were having our first conversation, and it was about the present and future state. And that was, I remember my parents and others in an older community were just like blown away by what they were learning. That is passé. And the reality is that we do have to get on board with what we're considering nerd speak and tech speak, because that is the language that we're going to have to work in. So, as I said before, you were ahead of your time, you're an early adopter, but really we need to adopt now. So, on that note, I would like to punt it over to the audience to ask some questions. And now keep in mind that you have access into Adrian's brain, whether it's about your specific line of business, whether it's something that is coming up for you, or you think someone else might benefit from hearing. No question is too silly or too heavy, and that's kind of the point. So let's pass it around.
Thank you.
It's okay. We'll start here. It's okay. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Firstly, great job, Bhavna. Adriano from now on. There you go. New name. So I guess what we'll do is that if we maybe take the questions on this side and then the questions on that side and we don't keep chopping around. So obviously I'm going to get you to plug which conference is coming up soon. I'll get you to plug that. So the question is, you mentioned a variety of industries where you feel, hey, you need to start reassessing your presence in that industry. So if I am a lawyer or one of these industries that you mentioned, maybe take one or two examples. What should I do next? If my industry has been earmarked for a great deal of change, what should I do now?
Yeah, let's go with a plug right off the bat. AI conference is coming end of July here in Bali. It's going to be cool because we're going to make it cool. You know, it was cool 4 months ago talking about AI. That's not cool now. You know what's cool about AI? Learning how to make it better in your life. You know, I'm going to swear again, sorry. Fuck everyone else. Just get down to it, figure it out, make it part of you. You don't want to be Edna in the garden. That's a horrible route. Be cool. Be the cool kid who knows the Microsoft Word. And wow your parents with your ability to write poetic verse in every single message you ever send them. And they'll wonder how you're so smart. Don't tell them. All right, next thing, my friend. So AI conference is going to dive deep into a really, really cool set of features because we're going to do it right. But let's just propose already that you're already kind of cool, but you're looking to be cooler because you're in an industry that's going to get completely taken over. A good friend of mine, he's a translator. He's in his 60s. He's conceptually done, and he knows it. But you know what he did? He started about a year ago asking me questions all the time, and he'd invite me over for dinner, and he'd ask me questions. And you know what he's doing today? He's in Japan in front of 500 people giving a presentation on how to use AI to revolutionize the translation services business. Because he figured it out. This isn't magic, this isn't mystery. You just get in front of it and make it yours. And that's where mass customization comes in. It's not just a concept of developing products, it's also a methodology to stay ahead of the curve. And that's what we all need to do, as individuals, as a community, and as groups of professionals. And that's why it's important, I believe, to have physical events and venues that support your continuous personal development and the backstop of you within a community, not as an individual, not floating as a digital nomad, not out in the world trying to figure out what you need to do or how you're going to do it, but by resting on a community that you give value into so that you can get it vicariously back.
I think just to add on that for the next question was that, anyone who's maybe familiar or has been in the medical space, there used to be, and there still is, these CE conferences, continuing education conferences, right? Where you have to kind of stay on top of medical trends and be able to ask those very practical questions. I imagine this AI conference is going to give people an insight into people like you and others who are working in this space to be able to ask very specific use case scenarios of how do I work my business with this? What do I do to change this? And I think that's where we're at now, which is not so much about what does this mean for me? It's like, oh no, this means change for you. Let's figure out how to make that change work for you.
Yeah, good point. And just to add on that, we're going to bring a group together of people that are excited about their specialization and how to use AI to make it better. But beyond that, I charge a lot of money to do what I do. And I do that because I'm very specialized and I'm good at talking. Pay to have multiple hours of consulting with me or go to a conference and learn, which is cheaper. Well, this one's cheaper. And if you use those events the right way, you get so much more value personalized to you, to your situation now, down to what you should do in your next steps. That's what you do with AI. So do this with humans. Makes it all make sense.
And that's why you're here. This is a trailer for what is one of the conference. Okay, let's go on with the next question.
Hello. You say you're a forward-thinking chap, and I love that. That's great. Are you thinking forward about Elon's Neuralink at the moment? Because I watched the Vision Pro video.
I had to look left. There's people in the crowd behind you too. You're right that are thinking very deeply about that.
Okay. Well, the thing is, because I watched the Vision Pro YouTube videos and I shit myself because then I thought, well, what happens when we actually plug into the matrix? Is there infrastructure already being built to, in advance of us going, hang on a minute, I'm about to die. Why don't you plug me into the matrix and I'll live for 1,000,000 years in heaven?
Cool question. I'm going to answer two that you asked right there. Number one, do you want to be an AI agent? Do you want to have yourself as an AI agent? We're building superhuman studios as part of this new project that I can't quite yet talk about, but almost, here in Bali, that's designed specifically for this. We're going to support training people that are Balinese and Indonesian technical students that want to learn how to do AI engineering, that are excited about motion capture and AI avatar crafting. Because if you've watched Her, you understand what companion or artificial intimacy is. And if you've watched 200 other sci-fi Hollywood shows about downloading your brain into the Matrix, that's what exactly we're going to be doing.
Jeevers.
But you said something else that's really interesting, and we're going to stop and pause on that. Looking forward into the future is a poor man's game, because you're always gambling on the future coming to fruition in the way that you envision it, and that never happens. So there's a lot of failure, there's a lot of guessing, so you got to be kind of broad. Where my personal vision is now is I love to support people in their innovative projects and products. I will absolutely talk with you and help you get refined on what you're doing. And the thing that we need as a community is a connection of ingredients. It's like you're making a really good meal and you've got to go to mise en place and pull the different ingredients at the right time and craft something together. So as we get better as a community in supporting innovation, and as we bring money and innovators and processes and systems and legals and services and all these things together, this could and should be one of the places worldwide where people are challenging themselves to say, hey, what's a problem that I have in my day-to-day? What's something that pisses me off? And how can I solve that problem? And if I can solve a problem for me, am I solving it for a lot of other people? That is commerce. That is business from the beginning of human existence till now. And I don't think we should get away from that. I think we should stay focused on commerce in the AI revolution. but just do it better.
Any more questions over here? This one?
Behind you.
Yeah. All right, we'll go over this way. Okay. Oh, what? Hold on a second. Doris, hold the press.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. You were mentioning many times that this thing there will be replaced. Can you give us an idea about with what it will be replaced? I'm
Yeah.
very curious about that.
Yeah, the man on your right actually is holding a mic right now. The mic is a piece of technology. The man on your left asked a question about human-machine interface, HMI. There's a number of different variations of that idea, but basically all of us experience human-machine interface daily. Someone in the back has a laptop, someone's looking at a computer right now, you're talking to a mic. You're already interfacing with technology all the time. What Elon's done and what people in this crowd are thinking about a lot professionally is how do we minimize this? How do we minimize this? My air conditioner guy is calling me right now to tell me that they fixed my air conditioners on my watch while I'm giving a talk. That's ridiculous. But that's what's going on right now for me, and it's vibrating. I think a layer of intelligence in most of our interactions is going to help us filter our interactions. It's going to help us be better about where we're spending our time and the quality of time that we have. You're going to have commercial grade choices in that. You're going to choose an abstraction layer that will manage all your technology, will manage all your communications, and just to throw some forward thinking onto this, your agent will negotiate with other agents about what you do and what you do not do. It will make buying decisions for you. It will remember things that right now you're forced to remember yourself. Like, where's your bike? It can answer questions that you can't answer right now, like, what's going on at your house? It can tell you questions that are really important to you, but you don't really care about in the moment because you can't. What are your kids doing? Am I making money or am I losing money? Is an air conditioning guy trying to get a hold of me? Well, I don't really want to take that call right now. And so we're in a weird state of technological innovation, and our education to learn AI as this stage emerges is going to push us into the right direction where we choose good fundamentals as our foundation for choices when AI gets to the next stage, where it's super cool and super normal to have our AI agents represent us in physical interactions where, hey, give me your WhatsApp is just ridiculous. It's like asking, hey, can I use your rotary phone? Because it's going to be that at one stage. Your kids will look in not a book, but the equivalent in the future of a book, and look at that and this and just be like, wow, okay, so she was holding the phonogram, or like they wanted to listen to music and they had to go over and crank. Okay, I mean, that's cool, you had music, but that's random. And we can be better than that. And where the future brings us as individuals, as a community, as a society, as on the basis of AI for good, is making those choices where it's good for the collective as well as the individual, and yet there's the foundation of choice within. Answered? Yeah, that's how I usually do it.
Okay, thank you for your talk, Adrian. My name is Mehdi. I'm from France,
Hi, Mehdi.
and I just created my first AI agent this weekend, just playing around with Steamship and ChatGPT and Telegram, and I'm super excited about the idea of creating AI therapist or AI coach that's going to support coaches. And I studied machine learning in uni, but that was a long time ago, and I didn't write a line of code since, I don't know, 6 years. But I'm going to try to pick your brains. How would you create an AI therapist and effectively bring it to market? So
That's a great question. Okay, I'm going to nerd out and come back and answer your question through this. All right, we sit down, we say, we have 45 minutes, let's create an AI therapist. We're going to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to build a map of pre-prompt and prompt engineering. This is, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you phraseology for machines to understand. So, run through. Bhavna's sad. She wants to talk to someone. What do? We tell the AI that we would like it to act as a therapist. We're going to ask it a series of questions. These questions are going to be in a format of response and answer. We want the AI to posture as a therapist would, and we can inject learnings and knowledge through, if you're doing this quick, the use of an ELM, an expert language model. And we're going to do this because this is all possible through the use of PDF. Everyone knows how to make a PDF document? Fantastic. If you can do that, you can make this in 45 minutes. But let's go one step farther. What you want is someone that has a face, because you want to design not only a therapist, you want to design your therapist. So as an individual, we move from the POC, or the proof of concept phase, over to the next one, where we build an individual example of this. We figure out what's good for you, what you want. So is this I'm going to just say it, a dark-skinned French man that's a therapist? Is that exactly what you want? Is that a self-reflective thing? Cool. If it's not, you choose. Maybe it varies in values on your inputs or non-inputs and changes over time. But then we discuss all that. And that's the next phase that we're going to go into with all these verticals. Something for one person. But then we have to go over to your thing, mass customization. How do we make it more for everyone? And that's where the tricks come in. Each one of those stages incrementally costs a lot more money. So to do a 45-minute sit down, let's build this to show that it works, cool, done. That's just our time. Maybe some drinks. The next one, we're going to build a single advantage, a single example, $200,000 right now. Boom, you're done. Lots of people can do that. That's a standard pre-seed round, by the way. $300,000 US is by and large what most projects will cost if we're going to build a single example for it to work. Now you want to go into production. This really works well. You found some guys with money. They're like, yeah, let's do this. I fully feel bad all the time. I want to ask a machine what's up, but I want to ask my machine what's up, and I want my kids to have a different machine, and I don't want them to talk, and I want it to be logical, and it can't talk about suicide, and it can't position death as an option, and it can't go into nefarious actions, and it can't tell me to do horrible things. And you start to realize the complexity of this, because there's horrible amounts of things that could happen if you got it wrong. So then you have to go back and say, well, what is a therapist? And is there a rule book for therapists? Yeah, there is. There's a certification board. Is there a body of knowledge for therapists? Yes, absolutely is. And a lot of it's taught interpersonally, not educationally. And so when we talk about machines and training a machine to be something, a therapist is a difficult one, and that makes it valuable. So if you're to come to me and say, hey, Adrian, I'd like to make $1 billion therapy company, and I have $300,000, I would say, awesome, let's build $1 billion therapy company by showing the people with money that not only can you build this one example for $300,000, that you can get a whole bunch of people so excited about doing this, the value of the company exceeds the cost of getting there. And that's the VC market. The VC market and investment in technology building is going to change very fast. So when you ask me a question and you say, oh, did you give a straightforward answer? No, I did not. Because we have to go around in circles a lot of the time in order to answer, to come back to it. The full circle is you're asking a great question and you're asking it for a great reason. You have a problem and you want to solve it. Now, there is levels of that solution. And the language that I think we all need to make normal is that results cost, but like every good business, that there's an input cost and there's a value of the output work. And let's normalize that. Good?
Good. I do want to just, to her point, was if you did have to sum up what's going to replace this, what would it be?
Okay, so end of this year, okay, say it again. In August, you can come over and see on my phone my AI agent working fully and legitimately, because that's what we're building. Do you want to see on my phone right now the multiple AI agents from companies that I'm an advisor to or support? Because I got them all. Variations in validity of different use cases, verticals, tons. It's there right now. But what you asked is really specific. I don't think we're going to use this as our primary interface. I think the interface itself will change, and that's a bit of a different question. So let's move away from a phone and just say that we have a virtualization of information, and this is consumed more spatially. When you walk through your house, you're going to have pieces of important information on your mirror. You're going to have a doorbell that when you press the doorbell, an AI agent emerges and comes out, and you converse with this through either voice, text, or through visuals. This will be normal. When you walk into Tropical Nomad, there should be a Tropical Nomad AI mascot there that asks you what's up. I'm going to say it, Itchy, I'm sorry. When there's the new welcome desk put up there and it's built out correctly, not only will you see a friendly helping human there to give you choices about services, but you should see a friendly AI agent that you can converse with and normalize that interface is no longer bound to the phone. Short term, AI agents will be a primary interface.
So for anyone who is maybe familiar with the cartoon The Jetsons, if you guys watched that as kids, a lot of what you're saying, which is augmented reality meets AI, which equals spatial, is
Correct.
what you are predicting. That we
Yes.
walk into a room and we're self-selecting, and that is going to be potentially what replaces device. I think that kind of answers your question. What timeline?
Bhavna, you really got a good question about health tech. I love health tech. Out of the 4 things I do, it makes me the least amount of money, but it can occupy a lot of time. You know why I love health tech? Is because it's really personal. It's really close to my heart about how can I help people. When you walk into a hospital or a clinic right now, you have to wait in line. You have to talk to someone who has no time for you, cannot put a sensor on you, cannot do many things, can just ask you verbal questions. That's great for an AI. So AI agent medical triage is the long form, but what it's going to be is hospital welcome lady as an AI. That's going to be super normal. Say it correctly. I started building those in 2019. I went to India in the beginning of 2020 to build this with a number of tech companies. Came back to Singapore. We had a very high-priced 5-big consulting firm come in and build it with us, and we recognized that the AI was the thing that was needed. Everything else made sense, but the AI wasn't powerful enough. So when we solve these fundamental AI problems, expect that your main way of interfacing, from your hospital to your car to your phone to that ridiculous Apple speaker on your bed that does nothing right now, to all these other interaction points and interface positions, will have an LLM, a large language model, or combined with an ELM, or a series of ELMs behind it, and this friendly, jovial interface that you choose. Just to finish off on that. Apple would like you to do this right now. When you make an avatar of yourself on Apple products, you choose how it looks based on a bunch of characteristics. This will be normal. This will be expected. There will be AI Bhavna.
Okay, I feel like we could dive into so many things with you. I want to continue with the question. There's one back there.
Hi. Thank you
Hi.
so much for your thoughts. So my question is, who is responsible for AI's mistakes and the bias that comes from the fact that it's built by humans? Because I feel like it's definitely not perfect, and I feel like it's been talked about as if it is.
Yep, and actually we did discuss this a little bit on a previous episode, just around sort of the human bias that makes its way into everything we do, because it's been collating the information for years, and that the onus is on us going forward to how we feed and regulatory body. But I want to allow you to answer her more specifically.
All right, so the reality is that human bias affects everything, always has, likely always will. How do we get to a place where mass customization is represented through an unbiased set of core data? It's not possible.
Right.
Frankly, directly. All of the brightest minds, guys that are crazy smarter than me, that spend all their days in groups with people that are crazy smarter than me, thinking about how do we solve this bias problem, and they don't have an answer. And the reason they don't have an answer is because all of our encoded human history and knowledge is inherently biased. If you've ever heard the term is that the winners write the history, or the 1,000 variations about that, there's always going to be storytelling coming full circle into this. The reality is, though, we can build tools to help with this, and we can build it right now. So in the prompt example, when I want a therapist to not say racist things to me or tell me that my parents are always to blame, we can architect those frameworks or what I've been calling railguards into the process, where it'll prevent big crashes or big upsets. There's a lot of examples in recent history about AI going afoul. Facebook's original AI built a language that it would communicate that humans couldn't read, and when they went in and figured it out, it was saying some pretty horrible stuff. Bard first 6 versions had to go offline because it was super racist.
Yeah.
And you know, why is it racist? Because all the information that it uses is racist. OpenAI, if you've used it between 3, 3.5, and 4, is way better on all these. And the reason why is because we have human reinforced learning. And they're, just to keep it really non-nerdy and simple, a lot behind that. There is a tremendous amount of firms globally that specialize in effectively hiring people to take audio clips from these AI speakers that we use and validate them, or look at questions and make sure that the answer is prescribing a certain standard of response methodology. If you look at GPT-3 to GPT-4, it builds your answer framework and then says on the bottom through a disclaimer language, this may be what you asked, it may not, we don't really know. And it's doing that based on probability that's built into the machine. So humans need to solve human bias problems by building tools by humans that use AI. It's a ridiculous problem. And
Right.
I don't know the answer.
But then I guess what I end up thinking is who is responsible? Let's say like even in health tech, like once you bring it into hospitals and stuff, let's say an AI misdiagnoses someone.
Great question.
What happens?
All right, so let's all blame Elon. No, he's good to blame. Elon built a car that has an AI-driven video capture system. The reason they don't use LiDAR is because video they can put in court. They'll tell you a whole bunch of reasons why it's not. It's legal. But it's a good system. So what it sees, it can kind of think, hey, I should stop. That looks like a child. Oh, this car's going to turn into me. And it's very good at predicting. The problem is that if 1,000 people were going to have accidents based on a volume of time, so let's call it 3 months in the US, and like 10 people in cars and the equivalent amount of interactions were to have accidents, it'd be too much. Because the story's not AI saved 990 accidents from happening or prevented them. It's that AI caused 10 accidents. So I think as a society, we have to go about 3 fairly historically common steps forward in innovation before we get to acceptance. Like, oh, I might, missend to a group text because, I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, well, now you don't do that. Hey, I might, missend this document. Well, now you don't do it. But AI has a real problem when it's given the power to kill humans. When you talk about murder bots and when you talk about AI that can kill, you're starting to cross lines. And this is your fundamental challenge. So how do we build this concept of humanity into AI? If you're a fan of nerd cinema and watched The Anti-Matrix, this was a cartoon that came out between the first and second Matrix back in 2002, to round up to that time. There was a series where humans were teaching AI to have humanity. I think that's valid. I think that the Zucks and the Musks of the world should stop raising the red flag so much and talking about how horrible this is going to be. It's going to happen. I think we have to universally talk about how do we validate humanity and socially acceptable rules around behavior and output as something that's standardized and a choice that you make. You choose AI that is for good. When you go to the hospital, you could say, I choose AI which is validated by medical doctors. I choose the optimistic AI. I choose the pessimistic AI. I choose my AI agent. I choose my interface. As clearly as you choose the model, brand, and make of your phone, you will choose your own AI agent. As personal as you've made that through your setup, your standards, your systems, you will also make your AI agent. And I think that your question is not even complete because you're talking about an AI that diagnoses a medical problem. I think it's your AI agent who's going to talk to that AI agent. And I think that it's going to tell you what you want. And it's going to do it without you being involved. And there's so many problems with that and so many risks. Oh my God, yeah, right? This sounds horrible, it sounds risky, and that's going to give us all jobs for the next years.
I was just going to say, it may take that awful sort of, everything kind of comes together and blows up, where there is some massive malpractice that happens, unfortunately, to enforce regulatory change. And that regulation maybe doesn't come at a country level, it comes at a very specific level. So in the same way in which as you say, like you could be like Google MD and you're going and looking at, articles and trying to diagnose yourself off of things that are like Mayo Clinic and it's been verified by said doctor versus other forms, there maybe is a place for that. Actually, no, not maybe, there will be a place for that. And there might be an opportunity. Maybe that's a role, maybe that's a job of someone who's going and regulating. Because I think, kind of just jumping off your question, is that the more sort of gaps that we can uncover that does have a human impact, whether it's trying to infuse AI with a heart-centric and passionate heart space, and the areas where we cannot, is that an opportunity? Is an opportunity for us to create jobs? So we'll leave that as a question mark.
So Carol's got the last question.
Carol.
Is this working? You have zero idea of what's happening in my brain right now. It's racing in every single direction to which question am I going to ask you. First of all, do me a favor. You generated your profile picture on AI. Add a smile. It's very much needed. Second. So I'm going to try to actually put the last two questions together with mine. We're going to create a triangle. This thing about ethics and responsibility, this is so important. And I would say that for me, the one thing that seems obvious is that every single person that is working on an AI project should hire a philosopher that's going to come in, or an elder, one of those like me, who ask them questions about what it is that they are doing, why they're doing it, and how they're doing it. The second thing is, if we want things to not be biased, then we make an effort to make sure that women, and a very diverse range of people are always included and involved in creating an AI project, yes? Because we're all talking about wonderful white male that are driving progress in that area, and where is everyone else? I'm not seeing them. So it will be bias, just by the nature of that. So responsibility comes, also from the entrepreneurs. They have to realize that, and they have to do something about that. Then I want to circle back to something that you have not talked at all about, which I'm obsessed with, and it's emotions. So you talked about, creating your project. It's all emotional based, because when you're a coach, and I've been a coach and I've done that, you need to have a certain level of emotional intelligence to understand how you can connect with your client, and because you have a responsibility for their life. Now, if you do not include any kind of information about bad stuff, and ChatGPT is terrible. It's censoring every negative emotion. I mean, it's lovely, and I know it comes out of a good heart, but you can't research things like sex, for example. Today, I wanted to know how many men have sex with sex bots. That's how you call them? So that would be interesting. I am not allowed to talk about these kind of things. It won't go anywhere. There is such a level of censorship that has created some kind of paradise world where everything seems to be going very well and not acknowledging the range of emotions that humans have. So, do you think that the value of a human being is now to be entering the space of giving emotions, creating emotions, and I'm not talking about artificial emotional intelligence or artificial intimacy. I'm talking about real stuff. Going back to your example of Sonia, I used to work in the tourism industry. We had travel agents. They now have become travel coaches because they teach people how to travel well. So is that the added value that you would want your social media manager to have, or content creator? I'm no longer being, a social content creator, but I am a personal coach that helps you manage your emotions around your relationship with social content, social media. I'm getting there.
Thank you. You answered my first two answers already, so we can skip it. Yeah, let's get down to it. Your job sucks right now. You've got 30 new jobs that you can go do right now that did not exist 6 months ago. Prompt engineer is only one of them. Carol, you just said something really important. EI is one aspect of humanity. It is a layer of humanity. If we think about our physicality, our emotional, our spiritual, our sexual, our energetic levels of existence and how that pulls back to our physical oneness, our self, and then talk about artificial intelligence as to what it is, an extension of our own capacity, let's get cool for a second. Everything that you do right now can be adjusted to the new world without you needing to abandon what you're already good at. But it's taking new skills, just like the travel agent becomes a travel coach, just like the social media manager becomes a social voice coach, just like someone that is very good at translating between one language to another, and in a world where a machine does that 97% better than a generic translator, learn to be the 3%. We all have that capacity, and as a community, we can support each other in this. Let's go deeper. Okay, so we had a good dinner together on Saturday. She asked me a lot of good questions. She's very fucking pointy with the questions. It's good, right? It's partially the French. It's part, yeah, but it's also the philosophy. Let's talk about that. I think about life a lot. 2 to 12 hours a day, I listen to media and I consume it while I'm doing other things, and I do this so I can regurgitate and come up with new ideas. I had a particularly tough day to get through today with a lot going on, big things, exciting things. I listen to Stoic philosophy in the morning because it just tells me what I need to, and it's random if it's exactly what it needs to be. And this morning, it was exactly what it needed to be. But I have to listen to it because it's recorded. I want a Stoic AI. I want to tell my Stoic AI, different than any of the other AIs, hey, I've got a really difficult day coming up. Can you pump me up? Can you be like, hey, why do I have friends, and why do I have community, and why do I encourage support, and why do I give a portion of my time away? Well, it's because I don't expect anything back that I find a lot of people are willing and wanting to help me out. That's community. And this one product, this one idea, an extension of something like a therapist or into a philosopher, could be a Stoic philosopher, and we could build AI specifically for that. Maybe you're really good at one thing, and maybe other people need that one thing as well. So instead of building a social media management company, build a social media AI company. Use tools, techniques, and platforms that are becoming readily available, or companies like ours which are building them to be a lot more accessible, and build an AI product because it's way cooler. And again, I don't have to gamble on my Stoic philosophy. I can ask someone, can you tell me about? Maybe that there's an NFSW AI bot that will talk to you about sex, but it has rules as well. And it has socially validated, socially accepted, stamped, certified rules that it agrees to and that you agree to by using it. That's AI for good. Because we can frame our needs, our wants and desire, not in the bucket of what's right or wrong, but what's right for me right now. And that's mass customization. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think we have to fuck it up thousands of times before we're going to get it right. And if we're thinking about 70% failure, we're thinking probably too small. And if we're thinking about 100 times failure, we're probably thinking too small. So let's normalize getting it wrong so we can start to get it right.
Amazing. Okay,
Thank
I
you,
know we
Carol.
have a lot more we want to ask. Robert, there is,
Yeah, do you want one more? Okay, so just 3 quick things I want to say before Bhavna continues and sees us to the next place. So we've spoken tonight, obviously, about a great deal of things, and this panel or this conversation happens once a month, so remember to tune in. The second thing which I love about what you can see clearly from tonight is that the reason why you come in person, online is great, but you come in person because you get to have this kind of experience where you can find out more and you can interact directly, not only with those people which are being interviewed, wonderful Adrian Blackwood tonight, and obviously our sister Bhavna, but also the people here in the audience. So one thing which I'm very strong on is that most of the time, the people that we need or might be helpful for us for the next step are often sitting right next to us, but we don't know because we don't speak about it. So Speak Up Monday, every Monday, gives you the opportunity for free to come. When you see a title that lights you up, that just gives you that little fuzzy feeling, that's the one to come, because the chances are you'll meet the next person, the right person, or people to take you forward to the next step in your life, wherever that might be. The third and final thing, we spoke about this AI conference. It's being put on by the funding, of which I'm a co-founder with Wayne Thompson and Anastasio. Now, the funding is the largest platform which is underpinning and supporting entrepreneurism and investment in Indonesia, and it's focused on Indonesian companies and Indonesians leveraging the beautiful thing of this partnership between Indonesians and foreigners coming together. So watch out for it. The details will be released at the end of this week / early next week. It will be the last weekend, so 3 days, in July at the Trans Resort. So look out for that. And there's opportunities for sponsorship. There's opportunities for people who want to come and want to have this kind of experience, learning from the best, which are here right now doing it in practice. So you get to learn practical skills of what's relevant right now. So thank you very much indeed. Sister Bhavna, great job once again. Back over to you.
All right, so I started off this talk by referring to you as a thought leader. And clearly you have a lot of thoughts, which we knew.
For good or worse.
Yes. And, that's sort of the beauty of this. And as Robert mentioned, is that the one thing that isn't here is AI bots and technology. In that way, it's humans. And we're having a shared experience. And as much of the dialogue maybe went into the areas that could feel scary, confusing, the reality is it's a discussion. It's a dialogue. This is part of our reality. And we're going to continue to talk about it. So I want to ask you in a moment and let's take it, if Adrian was giving out a playbook to the beginners or intermediate level, so let's simplify the nerd speak and kind of just a takeaway for the general audience. If you could leave us with a parting thought as a thought leader, if everyone here was commandeering their own ship and we're all pioneers navigating the AI waters, what's one thought you'd want to leave us with? And I'll come back to you on that. I, meanwhile, want to take a moment to thank everyone who is here today. First and foremost, Robert Ian Bonnick, my brother, who, for many of you, this is episode 376. So we're talking almost 400 episodes every Monday, 4 years in, rain or shine. Up until maybe I think last year, he was up here every Monday, creating a space for community and dialogue and change. And as we witnessed here today, there are some polarizing views. There are views that are shared, and with that, that's how we implement change collectively. So thank you, Robert, for giving us that platform and for allowing me to be up here in the host seat. Thank you. And want to thank our technical partners, Itchy and team. Without you, we would physically not be here in this space. It would just be an audio podcast. Instead, we have a studio audience that we can sit with and be with. And thank you so much for allowing us to do this every single Monday. Thank you to the Tropical Nomad team. And thirdly, our audience. This would not be, the energy that's being exchanged here would not exist without your faces, for us to look out to, for us to gauge, for us to dialogue with, to give us your time on a Monday and to be here with us. It means a lot, and it just allows for community, which is something that I think all of us, we all have a heart, we're all soulful beings, can appreciate, no matter if we're talking about technology. So thank you, everyone, for being here and for those tuning in online. And lastly, my speaker, Adrian, and thank you for giving us your wisdom, giving us your reality, for being crass, Because it's real, and I think that is something that we can sugarcoat a lot of things, and as much as we want to, we have to face some of what the future is. So thank you for being here, sharing your time, sharing your brain. There's so much more we could dive into, and I think just shows that in order to think differently, we have to move different. And the way you move is by being curious, by embracing your fear, by pivoting. And I think if we can just take away those 3 ingredients, if we were to bottle you up and sell it, it would just allow for a community of change and forward thinking. So thank you for being here, Adrian. And with that, our thought leader, commandeering our own individual ships, what would be your one parting thought for all of us?
So if you go to YouTube and type in Think Differently, one thing comes up. It's an Apple commercial. And when you watch that Apple commercial, what it is people that you recognize doing, being, and saying pretty profound things. So what is thinking differently? It's the idea to see the future before it's a reality. I don't know if that's me. It's always hard in the first person. I think when I learned to trust myself, I learned to fully open up to my full potential. And I think that's what we're all doing right now. You have an opportunity as a human that you've never had before, and that's to spend more time with other humans, because your work can be more efficient, you can be more efficient, and if you choose to, you could learn to let go of all the things you don't like doing by getting into a lifestyle which encourages, allows, and embraces technology, people, and community to help you. My thing is I want to spend less time with technology. I want to spend more time with humans and with myself. And I'm going to achieve that with technology. There's one last thing that I want to talk about. I'm a, however you want to phrase it, human, because I build things. I met a lot of people here at 2:30 in the morning because they're walking around building things. And there's people challenging themselves in this community to build real things, not concepts, not POCs, real things. And we all run into challenges and we all run into problems. And I have a piece of a puzzle that may be coming at the right time for them and may give them something. And they may go ahead and give that same experience to someone else, because that's what community is. It's something beyond the moment of individualism, and it's the capacity of the whole. And just like communities of our ancestors, where as a group of 100 we could achieve quite a lot together, and there'd be roles within that, I think as humans we have an obligation to ourselves to come back from living in individual houses and not having deep connections with other humans, and choose to go forward into communities which value that. Look around you. You guys are hanging out with cool people. There's a lot of cool people here. Bali as a whole has a tremendous amount of cool people doing really cool things. And that's normal. Quality of life is something we should talk more about. People in the real world don't think this way. But when you come here, they do. And I think our obligation now as innovators, as crass speakers of the truth, is to say the truth. And I think my role in this as I build forward and solve problems for people that want to have problems solved, is to just embrace the reality. The future's now. Let's be part of it together. Let's help each other out. Let's be the coolest versions of ourselves. And let's not be scared of the things that are coming, because we have a voice in what they become.
Amazing. And with that, thank you so much.